So after sanding, fairing, sanding, fairing again, I'm hoping this is one more sanding and that'll be it, and it'll be ready for paint. So this is my new navigation computer, and I've got it kind of jury-rigged here at home because it'll be a couple of months before it's on the boat and I can use it really, and I want to make sure that, I want to burn it in. But I just thought it was interesting. It's been sitting here on this desk for about 24 hours, powered on, and it seems the speed over ground has gone as high as a half a knot, which I think is kind of funny. And it has, you can see the track, how it's kind of bounced around where my house is. And it's just kind of interesting to get a little bit of feedback about it. I hope the GPS is more accurate when it's not inside a building. People are probably thinking, is why are you cutting plywood in your living room? And the answer to that is I literally have no space left in the basement because of so many frickin' projects. So here's a trick. When people say measure twice, cut once, first of all, I don't think twice is enough. But the other thing is, if you just keep measuring the same measurement over and over again, because you're human, the way your brain works, if you get it wrong, you're going to see it wrong every time you check it. So the trick, in my opinion, is to find different ways to check that your measurement is right. The easy one is I can measure this distance here, and measure it down here, and see that it's right. But I can also come up and measure diagonal, and I compare it to this diagonal, and make sure those line up. And then I can also check with a square to make sure I've actually got a square edge here, to make sure this thing's actually straight. And I've actually measured it 3 times, but it avoids the human factor, because if I look at it and go, oh, that looks right, but I'm not thinking about it right, when I do a different measurement, something's going to pop out and go, wait a minute, why that one lined up, why did this one line up? Here's a quick rant for you. US style electrical plugs. So they're small, and I don't know what the actual manufacturing tolerance is on theirs, but how many of you have had the experience of you have to push really hard to get this in, and then when you're trying to get it back out, it's like you need to tie it to a tow hitch and drive away. And then they make the actual rubber part here, the head or the body or whatever you want to call it, it's not that big. You can't get a really good grip on it, but you're not supposed to pull on the cord. So if you get it stuck in there, you have to pull on the cord. I just don't feel like somebody thought this through when they designed this. I think that some of the European style outlets are just a lot easier to manage than these. Putting a lot of effort into making sure these edges are straight and square. Just kind of funny considering probably nothing else that I'm connecting it to is straight or square. This is kind of interesting. I don't know how well the camera's going to pick it up, but look at how gorgeous that wood is. And interestingly enough, that's a piece that's going to go up inside the chain locker and then be painted over and no one will ever see it. And all I did to it was a coat of epoxy, so it'll be ready to, the epoxy will be soaked into the wood fibers and be ready to bond when I need to epoxy it to other parts of the boat. But man, I mean, that's marine grade plywood. But if I'd been looking for plywood for a project, something that was going to look nice, I don't think I could have done any better. So this piece is kind of interesting. This is the shroud I'm making for the engine compartment blower. And it's yet another example of the struggles I'm having understanding how to use fiberglass. I tried to put, because it's too thin and it needs reinforced with additional layers, and I tried to add 1 layer of chop strand mat. And in retrospect now I know that was a terrible idea. About halfway through doing it I realized it wasn't working out, and I peeled it off and cleaned off the epoxy as best I could, And today I sanded it down and it looks like no harm, no foul. I'm going to get another shot at it, but the chop strand mat was just too thick. I couldn't get it to conform to the curves. It just didn't work out, and it just kind of goes back to the novice fiberglassing stuff where I keep choosing the wrong materials. I just don't have enough experience to know. So every day is new learning. This is if you saw earlier videos, you saw me complaining about using the really fine fabric and how I had to lay up so many layers and got almost no thickness out of it. But where it shines, this is what I've learned, is on that piece down there, which is just underneath fabric right now, but you saw in the early part of the video, it has the curves on it, and this stuff will lay down and follow the curves without even having to cut notches or reliefs or anything. You can just smooth out the creases. So again, every time I do something, every time I make a mistake, I'm learning a little more. This is what this fine fabric is for those curves. It makes them a heck of a lot easier. So it's the middle of March here in Pennsylvania, and March does this thing where you never know what the weather's going to be. It could be summer-like, not quite summer-like, but you know, late spring-like, or it could be late winter-like. And so far this March, it has decided to just keep being winter. This has kind of hurt me because I'm waiting for it to warm up enough. My basement doesn't stay very warm in the winter. There's no heat in it, so it's not warm enough to use some of the paint I want to use to paint these parts. And tomorrow it's supposed to be warmer. So I'm trying to get everything ready that I want to paint for one shot. And the biggest thing is I need to get this is the underside of my companionway cover. And I'm trying to get all this old adhesive off of it. Using the heat gun to soften it and then a scraper to go at it has been the most effective, but it's just tedious work. Far too many people, when telling you how to do projects, forget the importance of these. These are just cheap-ass free weights. If you look at do-it-yourself videos, the number of times these are used as, you know, makeshift clamps or to just hold something down, these are like probably the most important thing to have in a shop. So I went through and I got all the old adhesive off of this, sanded it, scraped it, sanded it, came back with acetone and cleaned it, so it's ready to go now. But the reason I cleaned it is I wanted to just paint over it, but that surface is such a mess. And there were places where there were voids and stuff, which really surprised me because I would have expected better construction. But so I'm just going to lay one layer of the lightweight fiberglass to kind of stabilize things, to give me a more solid surface and to cover over the voids and stuff before I try to ferret. Big problem with this chop strand mat, you can't do anything with it without getting fibers just everywhere. So like once I have all these cut, I'm gonna have to come back and vacuum again. And also since I keep cutting it too thick, basically making it worse. Coming across little things like this. You see the wire? squeezed between the wire chase and the nut. And, you know, there's nothing wrong. That wire goes to this light and it works right now. But that's just a failure and possibly a short and even a fire just waiting to happen. I mean, come on. So here's an interesting question, right? I got these air filters, and when you clean them, everything comes off black. But when you see the dust in the air, the dust always looks gray in the air. This is probably just an optical illusion. I just think it's interesting. Alright, so I don't know how easy it's going to be to really communicate how important this is. This is my new battery box. I know it's just a box, but if you go back and look through the videos, I don't think you'll get the full frustration behind it, but you'll see from the earliest videos me looking and trying to sort out my battery situation. First what to do, and then how to do it, and how to make it fit, and all sorts of things like this. And this is far from done. I've got to take it apart. It's just held together with just enough screws to keep it from falling apart. I need to take it apart, glue it together, seal it up so it's liquid tight and waterproof it and all sorts of things. And then it's going to need some holes for ventilation and all that sort of thing. But the thing is I have this in the size, and we already know that it fits. And this is a huge load off my mind. It just feels like months and months and months of worrying is finally to the point where I'm done worrying and I can actually do something now.